Okay, hi, Tony's right. So this is gonna be maybe a shorter video. We always say this, don't we? So I finished. I feel like I finished what I would consider my first book of the year, truly. So there's that. My first book of the year. Yeah, I think that's true. Let me hold on. Let me see if that's true. I think it is though, because I just don't feel like I've read a bunch of books and completed them. I did start reading books, but I don't think. Let me see. I think this is true. Um, I've been so consumed with thesis that has not been my thing. Yeah, I think I just started talking about my thesis progression and stuff like that. So that was kind of like what was happening. Yeah. I went to AWP, got books and stuff like that. Yeah, I haven't finished it because I would do it. Yeah. So anyway, I'm not going to review it just yet. I'm going to just talk about my reading strategy in 2026 and post grad kind of things when it comes to how I'm approaching that. So I actually finished a book that I got at AWP. It is American Cave Wall Sonnets or Cave Wall Sonnets by C.T. Salazar. Really enjoy the cover. It's a fairly small book. It's published by Bull City Press. So I got to meet them, meet the representative from the publishing house, and just peruse the books. And I chose this one and two others. I think it was 3 for $15 or something like that. 3 for $20, somewhere in there. And yeah. So these are more like chapbook length-ish. They're fairly short. So this one, all the poems and stuff like that, was 27 pages total. So that's kind of where we are. Or really technically 24 pages. So it's this. And yeah, so I'm going to read the back and kind of talk about how I'm approaching book reviews and stuff like that in the future. So, American Cave Wall Sonnets attempts to record the aftermath of a tragedy to build an archive against a backdrop of erasure. The various unnamed speakers of these sonnets, the various eyes, and the letter I, the various eyes as in body part, grapple with fears that the things that wreck us daily could wreck us ultimately. C.T. Salazar reminds us that the narratives that survive aren't by default the truth, and the means of their survival should be suspect as well. So there's that. The description. So I am going to take a different approach to doing the review. So usually I finish it and I give you my initial thoughts, and I can do that. But the thing is, I want to go back and reread and start taking a lot more notes of language. And this is inspired by having conversations with my former classmate. You know who you are because you watch the channel. And discussions about language and reading and studying and craft. And so I think I want to read it again because I also am not too familiar with the sonnet. You kind of vaguely know what it is, and that's kind of weird coming from an MFA program, but we didn't focus on poetic forms too much. And honestly, I wasn't diving deep into the sonnet because I feel like I was looking up information on the American sonnet because it's considered that and that tradition, but the sonnets, they tend to be old stuffy, William Shakespeare-esque. And William Shakespeare is a great resource and a great model for how you can do it. But the sonnet has never appealed to me, maybe because it always had to, whenever there were forms that relied on things like meter, I kind of dipped because I was like, this is too much fucking work for me. It's just it's a lot going on, and I feel like I've never felt like my poems needed the sonnet form, American sonnet or otherwise, to like convey what I wanted to convey. I much prefer haiku. I much prefer free write. I much prefer like just I feel like I much prefer East Asian poetic forms. And so that's kind of where I am. I'm more inclined to study those. I think I find them quite beautiful, particularly like the haiku. And I've done like some other forms, and I really like the creativity jumping off point that they have provided. But I'm going to start getting into the sonnet to challenge myself with form. And one of the things in my thesis one class that my professor was talking about, like being able to tap into different forms gives you as a poet the variety of just poetic form and things you can choose from. And then also in your book, it gives you variety too, because if everything is free write, then it's kind of like, it can get a little bit stale. So my thesis, I tried to make sure that visually the things were different. And then form wise, like I tried to do, so we had to, I didn't do my like haiku type thing, but I did try to play with at least a visual form on the page if it was a free write. But going to learn like about the sonnet is something that I'm going to dive into, because yeah, I just didn't go into it and we weren't made to like do it. We had prompts, but they weren't like poetic form prompts until thesis one. So like prompts would be like, so we had a no pronoun poem that we had to do, and that was really great because it forced me to change my form. But again, it didn't borrow a form that was kind of like, it didn't really borrow like a pre-established form. I just kind of, because of the constraint, went in a certain direction, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of weird what happened to it. So yeah, I'm not gonna do this just yet. I want to get a piece of, not piece of paper, might want to get that, a pencil. I bought some like mechanical pencils recently, so I want to mark this up. I am also someone who doesn't like marking in books, to be real, but I feel like post-graduation I need to get into the idea of craft, the idea of note-taking, the idea of actually really studying, and it's just kind of more imperative now that I am leaving, you know? So yeah, no review just yet, but I want to dive into this, look into the American sonnet, like contemporaries and things like that. I think I'm more interested in the context and the background knowledge that maybe like is assumed when you go into an MFA creative writing program. I came from a decade-long trial and tribulation. I was like a history major, then a farm tech, like 7 years later, like a farm tech, and then a massage therapist, and then I went back to school. And yeah, so my realm of knowledge wasn't spent learning about poetry. For real. I had one workshop in poetry along the way, and that was for like some courses that I was like taking, but it was a part of like a program, like a creative program for people in a certain age range, and you got a little stipend and stuff like that. But even then, I didn't dive deep into it, which is kind of funny because it's like, girl, then you got into an MFA program, because my dream was to be a fiction writer. And it's kind of funny, I'm actually going into fiction writing a little bit more because I'm taking a class this semester in addition to my thesis courses that centers on like the fantastical, like kind of writing, surrealist writing. So I find that I like that lane, and I'm probably going to stick to that like lane in terms of that. And I should probably do a video on surrealism and where I see myself going with that, because so much of my stuff here is talking about poetry. So it would be interesting to dive into fiction. But yeah, doing that, taking notes, looking at it through the lens of like more craft, language kind of things, form, context, all that kind of stuff. And then also something random that I want to do is keep a journal of words that I don't know that I come across in poetry. And it wasn't that I came across words in here specifically, but like there's been times I've been reading and I don't know a word and I look it up. The thing that I like to do is like look up stuff. So look it up. And I want to be able to just have a log of like a rich vocabulary that I've learned and acquired over the years through like actual interaction with language, right? Not just talking to people, but like actually consuming it, reading it, and then not being too like ashamed. Not really ashamed if I don't know a word or definition or something like that. I'm not really ashamed. Because I just look shit up. I'd be like, what is this? What does this mean? What does this mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? If I don't know what it mean, I don't know what it mean. Like, it is what it is. Like, I'd rather not know and just look it up than act like I know. And then now I gotta like act like I can correctly put it within a context. Like, I don't have time to be acting like this, you know? So yeah, like a journal for that. And kind of keep tabs of that as well. I don't know. I feel like that would be something really, 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 really interesting to do. So I'm going to do it. So that's about it. Let's check in with this maybe like another month because I may do 2 reviews in one or reviews back to back. But now that this is done, I probably am going to start another one, but circle back to this one and then start looking at form or just dive into online resources about the sonnet because yeah, like the sonnet wasn't where it was at for me. I'm sorry. Like I feel like high school me checked out of stuff like that, even though I liked literature and I like literature analysis and stuff like that. But like I kind of checked out when it came to the sonnet. I just felt like it was too standard, too stuffy, too non-black. Even though there's so many black poets that kind of utilize the sonnet. Can I tell you who they are? No. But I know that they do because I'm like, of course. We're like, if we're English language, we've used the sonnet. Like, it doesn't, you know, it transcends race in many ways. So yeah. Yeah, so that's it. I will talk to you guys later. Take care. Bye.